All right, here we are. William Wagener, the guy in the white hat, taking it all off. The hat anyway for you. We're at Kyoto Grand on the 16th floor here, reporting the skies are dark here in Los Angeles. It was a pretty horrific day today. My first impression was way too much media coverage. I mean, there was all the major networks, a German network, an Italian network, and I can't even remember all of them, but there was plenty of international media. Lots of still photographers outside 210 West Temple, the criminal courts building, which is Kinney Quarter from the federal court building. I went up inside after I did not get my raffle ticket pulled, very first ticket, and on the back of it, it's got the court stamp, the California Superior Court stamp on it, but it didn't get picked. So the first thing we learned about this trial is the court system has designed it to minimize any fan impact in the courtroom, and they only gave out four tickets to the public, and most of the public that wanted to get in, as far as I could tell, there was about 50, 60 of them, were all Michael Jackson fans, wearing all kinds of Michael Jackson paraphernalia. I was wearing our foundation tie, and it does not say Michael Jackson. It says MJJIFF, and has Tom Mesereau's signature on it. He signed that for me at our banquet on the 16th.
I'm with you. I'm behind you. Okay, and that's what I believe this will do.
And Deputy Roberts of Public Relations looked me right up and down, and she said, "Well, you won't be allowed in with that tie, Mr. Wagener." She already knew who I was, and I don't know how she knew, because this is the first day. And I found that intriguing. Made me curious why they would know my name. At a point, I said to her, it doesn't say Michael Jackson. It just says MJJ. And she said, well, that stands for Michael Jackson, so you can't wear that in the courtroom. It has to be hidden or covered up. So I pulled my jacket closed. And then Erwin Phillips and Sandy Scott and two other people won the tickets. Now, Sandy Scott is Sunflowers for Michael gal that puts fresh flowers every day for money donated. I thought it was fair. I think God had a hand in this. She got picked out of 50 people. Went through two securities, and we were told there's no media overpass room on the 9th floor, but it wasn't true. Actually, on the 12th floor, they did have it. We found out, and I got it on tape from Jim Murray, that if you had a certain special media pass, different than the one they gave everybody that got in the courtroom, you could also get in on the 12th floor and watch the trial on closed circuit streaming. So they're a little bit dishonest with us, and it appeared to me they're trying to keep the fan base from getting that trial to an absolute minimum. 4 seats for fans and general public, and you got to be there at 7:30 in the morning to get in the raffle. If you're late, too bad, you lose out, you get no chance. He came down and he was gripping his mother's hand, and his mother walked in with him right through the doors into the courtroom holding her son's hand. And he looked a little bit defiant, a little sad maybe, a little puzzled. They took the first break in the morning. He came out and he looked terrified. He had, I wouldn't say total terror, but certainly any look of confidence was gone, and his mother wasn't holding his hand anymore. She was sort of sadly trailing and walking along behind him like, oh God, this is worse than I thought it would be. So that was my first impressions. When the Jacksons came in, I said, hello, Catherine, and she looked at me and she mouthed the words, hello, William. And just glanced at me briefly. I tried to get Jermaine's attention, but he was like somewhere else. His mind, he was just looking straight ahead. And what was interesting is, as the Jackson family came by, all the Michael Jackson fans and supporters of justice stood up in honor of the Jackson family. Justice Catherine, Joe, LaToya, Janet, Rebby, Tito, and Jermaine, they all came out, and Randy Jackson was also with them. The brothers looked like the strain had just really taken hold. I came back to the motel and turned on our laptop because we actually got to see the trial and see Murray's face. And it was interesting to watch the young female prosecutor. And she was trying to establish whether Michael Jackson had agreed to 31 Y3102 concerts. And they were talking about the practice scheme and the rehearsal schedule. And what, to me, I was thinking, when I'm watching them discuss all this, why did they exclude Tomei Tomei? Because he was basically running Michael's life for the last 7-8 weeks prior to his death. Tomei Tomei was involved in everything to do with Michael. And they only wanted recent witnesses. Well, he was very recent. He was at the hospital. And it struck me as this does not make sense. To exclude Dr. Tomei Tomei, whether he's a real doctor or not, I don't know. Watched the trial here, and then I went back just as it was ending at 4:30, hooked up my camera, got a shot of Catherine and Latoya coming out, getting in their cars, leaving. The press crowd was so intense. There was no wiggle room on that sidewalk. If you weren't right at the front, you had needed a ladder to get over the top to get a visual on them. It was intense. So before they came out, what I did is I went to Latoya Jackson's driver, and I'd seen him before. I can't remember where, but I knew he was probably Latoya's. I gave him my card, our MJJIFF card, and I said, would you please give this to Latoya? See that she gets my card. And he said, I will. When she came out, I tried to personally give it to her again. When she was walking out of the courtroom during a lunch break and leaving for lunch, I said, Latoya, did you get my certified letter? And then she turned around and said, who are you? I said, William Wagener. I sent you a certified letter. Did you get it? And they were way down the hallway, and she turned back, and I could tell she was scratching her head, and she was thinking. And I don't think she knows people send her mail at her home address she doesn't get, and at her business address, and she doesn't get it. It was clear to me she hadn't got my letter, even though I'd sent it certified and have a receipt from somebody like Gomez signed the green card. So that's what I accomplished today. Among the fans, I had Pearl, who was one of the people that got in the courtroom, and she had a media pass. She had very good, vivid recall of what happened. Also, Sandy Scott get in, and her recall was better in the morning, but by the end of the day, listening to all this testimony, and it's the first time Sandy Scott had ever been in a courtroom sitting like this for something this dramatic. Her mind had just sort of slipped away, and she just couldn't really focus. It was just that devastating. I also talked to Erwin Jacobs, who was a fan club leader, and she said, not today. I'm just drained, and you can see it in her face watching this testimony, because these are fan fanatics. I'm not a fanatic. I appreciate Michael's music, and I want to see justice done for Michael. And I think the only way to do that is through the foundation, to get the money that keeps giving to the very same children's hospitals, orphanages, and things Michael gave to, and perpetuate the good he was trying to do. And that way, he leaves a permanent legacy of Michael Jackson, the humanitarian, rather than all these crazy names they try to pin on him, and all this nonsense and these lies the liars try to slander him with. So I tried to get that card to her. I know her driver got it. I'll probably see him tomorrow, and I'll ask him again. By the way, for those that are interested, I did go to Veroma's bookstore, and I did buy an autographed copy of Jermaine Jackson's book. I haven't had time to read it yet. I just bought it Saturday. And I would have got to talk to him, except he left 1 hour early than he had posted on his website. And I got there just minutes after he left. I did not expect him to leave early. I expected, he had fans lined up for a long time. But I think we'll get a chance. Part of the problem is trying to reach the Jacksons is they have such an insulated lifestyle. Very difficult to actually get to one-on-one face-to-face with them. I thought my feelings at the end of the day was nice. I thought Katherine Jackson saw me. She remembered me from the 05 trial because I used to sit right behind her or right in the seat next to behind her. Sometimes I was behind Tito, sometimes I was behind Katherine. She remembered me. Tito just didn't look at all the same as he did in 05. In 05, he seemed strong and defiant and angry that this was being done to Michael. Today, when I looked at Tito's face, there was a sadness. There was like a profound sadness. And Jermaine said on the BBC Monday morning, he did a short interview, again, promoting his book. The BBC reporter asked him, do you think you're going to get justice? And he said, I want to believe that. I kind of hope it happens. But you can see in his body language in that video, Jermaine Jackson does not think there's going to be justice. So once they excluded Tomei, but said they just wanted recent witnesses, well, he was recent. But they excluded him. They cut off all the possibilities for looking for anybody, in the background that maybe was orchestrating things to happen. That was a big first mistake. But putting that aside, looking at what's before us, they could have charged him with second-degree murder, not first degree, which is premeditated. And I think they're right. I think this jury, no jury, could come to conclusion that a medically licensed doctor would think to himself, I'm going to kill the king of pop rock. I'm going to get him to pay me $150,000 a month. And before I get my first paycheck, my first monthly check, I'm going to kill him. I don't think any jury would buy that. But I think second-degree murder, they could have gone for that and then included, the lesser included a voluntary manslaughter because he voluntarily stepped below the standard of medical care by not doing it in a medical clinic, by not administering propofol in a hospital under supervision or in a medical clinic, and also because he volunteered to do this process and he's not an anesthesiologist. He's a heart doctor, and there's a big difference between a heart doctor and a anesthesiologist. They train for very specifically different parts of a medical procedure. He was not trained extensively, and he couldn't qualify at any hospital and going to any hospital in Los Angeles or any place in this state. I don't know about Nevada where his license is there, but in this state, no one would let him come in and do anesthesiology on any kind of an operation. He is not certified for that. And yet here he was doing it below the standard of care that's demanded for use of propofol. So I think voluntary manslaughter, which would have got him an 8-year maximum sentence. Murder could have put him away. Second-degree murder would put him away for maybe 20 years. Okay, let's say there's one juror that says, I won't buy murder. But voluntary manslaughter, because he voluntarily walked out of the bedroom, he voluntarily didn't have resuscitation equipment, he dropped so far below the standard of care expected of a medical doctor. I, as a juryman, even if I didn't know anything about the 05 trial, just looking at this, I would say, yeah, I can see voluntary manslaughter. He should get to 8 years and never get a license to practice medicine again. I could see that. And then they could have also included the only thing they are charging him with, and that's involuntary manslaughter. Right, thank you all. That's my report, William Wagener, from the Kyoto Grand, 3 blocks from the criminal court building. William Wagener for On Second Thought and MJJIFF for all those who wanted an opinion from somebody who's been following this thing since before.